Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're exploring a massive, really exciting shift that's happening right now in the global economy. I found this absolutely fascinating because, for generations, the primary goal of a business was incredibly simple: maximize profit. Full stop. But what actually happens when our traditional systems start failing to address our most stubborn global problems? Well, we're witnessing the birth of a completely new era. Modern business is fundamentally shifting. It's no longer just about purely seeking a profit. It's about actively solving the world's most complex challenges, all while still building a sustainable revenue-generating enterprise.
So, to really wrap our heads around why this is happening, we have to look back to the turn of the millennium. We kind of thought we had it all figured out, right? But as this slightly humorous yet deeply provocative quote from Jon Stewart captures perfectly, something broke. Following the post-Y2K era, somewhere between the dot-com crashes and these escalating global crises, there was this stark realization that our traditional societal and economic systems were seriously flawed. The machine we built simply wasn't equipped for the modern world.
All right, let's get into it. Our source material for The Explainer today is the fantastic book, The Business of Good by Jason Haber. Reading through Haber's work, he maps out this incredibly inspiring blueprint for a totally new breed of business. He envisions companies that brilliantly blend the agility and the savvy of a tech startup with the deep social consciousness of a traditional charity. It's a completely new paradigm, and discovering how it actually works is a real eye-opener.
So here is our roadmap for today. 1. The Great Convergence. 2. The rise of Capitalism 2.0. 3. The Hate It mindset. 4. The new bottom line. And finally, 5. Disrupting charity. Let's dive right in.
Section 1. The Great Convergence, a paradigm shift.
To truly understand today's social businesses, we first have to understand the massive technological and cultural shift that completely changed how you and I connect with the rest of the globe. Consider the stark contrast between these two moments in time. Back in 1999, Iranian students protested, but without modern technology, they were completely isolated. The world largely ignored it. But just 10 years later, the exact same type of uprising happened. Only this time, the 2009 protests were fueled by Twitter and supported globally as the Green Movement. Technology had fundamentally erased geographic boundaries.
It's actually wild when you think about how fast this all happened. You have Wikipedia launching right alongside the events of 9/11, Facebook emerging during the Iraq War, Twitter launching amidst ongoing global conflicts. We saw this rapid collision of escalating global crises right alongside the birth of Web 2.0 platforms. Haber calls this the Great Convergence. Simply put, the world became much smaller, precisely as its problems became much larger.
And this beautifully illustrates how that convergence shifted the very nature of activism. Think of the 1963 March on Washington, people physically traveling to fight against injustices directly impacting them. Now compare that to the 2015 Global Citizen Festival, where hundreds of thousands of people took digital action against global poverty just to earn tickets. Today, we don't have to be direct victims of an injustice to fight against it. Because of this hyperconnectivity, you and I have become true global citizens, and that changes absolutely everything about how we engage with the world.
Moving right along to Section 2, Rise of Capitalism 2.0, Rebooting the Economy.
Let's see how this newfound interconnectedness forced a massive reboot of our traditional economic structures, ultimately bringing us to Capitalism 2.0. The crucial takeaway here is that traditional capitalism, think about a classic, massive American supermarket, was incredibly successful at creating abundance and wealth, but it was purely profit-driven and often took a huge environmental and social toll. Capitalism 2.0 completely rewrites the rules. It proves that purpose and profit are not mutually exclusive. It aims to solve massive global failures without sacrificing sustainability or revenue.
So, you might be wondering, what exactly is social entrepreneurship? Well, the book defines it as the mechanism where private sector actors step in to solve problems that the government can't fix and traditional private markets just won't touch. It relies on what's called a triple bottom line. Instead of just tracking financial profit, these enterprises balance three things equally: people, planet, and profit.
Okay, this fact actually blew my mind. While this whole concept sounds incredibly modern, social enterprise is deeply woven into American history. Take Benjamin Franklin. He is arguably America's very first social entrepreneur. He founded the civically minded Junto Club, and he famously refused to patent his highly efficient wood stove. He actually preferred that society reap the maximum benefit from his invention over taking absolute personal profit. He was basically practicing Capitalism 2.0 centuries before the internet even existed.
That brings us to Section 3, the Had It mindset, psychology of change.
So what actually makes these modern change-makers tick? What drives someone to tackle these seemingly impossible global issues? I absolutely love how the author defines their psychology with this memorable acronym, they have had it. Social entrepreneurs are driven by a deep disappointment in the status quo. But rather than just being paralyzed by that, they pair it with incredible hope for a better future. The audacity to believe they can actually fix it, the ingenuity to design disruptive solutions, and the tenacity to push through massive resistance. They've literally had it with the way things are.
To see this had it mindset in action, let's look at a real-world example. African Clean Energy, or AC. Millions of people die annually from inhaling smoke from indoor open-flame cooking. Now, traditional charities just handed out cheap stoves, which often broke and were quickly abandoned. AC used ingenuity. They engineered a high-tech, smokeless, solar-powered stove, and they sold it using microfinancing. They proved that delivering an ingenious, for-profit product can literally save lives. And most importantly, it treats the poor as respected, paying customers with actual choices, rather than passive victims of charity.
All right, Section 4, the new bottom line, financial structures.
To really grasp how this all works, we have to look at the tangible financial and legal structures that make this dual-purpose business model legal, scalable, and highly profitable. When we look at the legal frameworks that make this possible, we're talking about Certified B Corps and benefit corporations. Notice how, while they do differ a bit in certification and reporting costs, they both legally transition a business from shareholder capitalism, where only the financial investors matter, to stakeholder capitalism, where the community, the environment, and the employees are legally factored right into corporate decision-making.
And what actually fuels these companies? It's called impact investing. This is the true engine of Capitalism 2.0. Impact investing requires three specific things: an intent for social good, an expectation of a real financial return, and hard metrics to track that impact. It proves once and for all that investors no longer have to choose between getting a maximum financial return and donating money to a good cause. You can literally do both at the same time. To put this into perspective, let's look at the sheer scale of this. $88 million. That is the massive amount of money the nonprofit Acumen has utilized through something they call patient capital. They take philanthropic donations, but instead of just giving it away, they invest this $88 million as venture capital into early to mid-stage social enterprises in developing nations. And here's why it's called patient capital. They actually give these startups the 7 to 10 years they truly need to scale and become self-sustaining. And when I read this next number, I was truly staggered. Because Acumen actively recycles their profits back into new ventures. That single investment strategy has directly touched over 100 million lives. 100 million. It is definitive, hard proof that treating low-income people as active consumers instead of passive victims isn't just morally right. It is incredibly effective economics.
And finally, Section 5, disrupting charity, reinventing giving.
For our last section, let's talk about how these entrepreneurial principles are not just changing the for-profit world, but totally overhauling the traditional and often inefficient charity model. Consider the story of Scott Harrison. He was this highly successful fast-lane nightclub promoter in New York City who went through a major moral crisis, which led him to found Charity Water. But he didn't run it like an old-school charity. He brought the slick marketing, the brilliant branding, and the powerful storytelling of a top-tier company, think Apple or Nike, directly to the mission of providing clean drinking water to the developing world. But honestly, his real genius was structural. He created the 100% model by setting up two completely separate bank accounts. Step 1. Every single dollar donated by the general public goes directly to water projects in the field. Step 2. A private group of investors specifically funds all the overhead, the salaries, and the operational costs. This highly effective two-step structure completely eliminated a fear I know I've had, and maybe you have too, that our charitable donations are just going to fall into a black hole of administrative fees.
And wow, the results absolutely speak for themselves. By treating his charity like an innovative business and guaranteeing radical transparency, Charity Water has helped 6.1 million people gain access to safe drinking water across 24 countries. This disrupted charity model proves that when you respect the donor and brand the mission effectively, the scale of your impact is truly limitless. Which brings us to the end of our explainer. We've seen how the convergence of technology and global crises has completely reshaped the way we do business, blurring the lines between profit and purpose. So I want to leave you with this question to chew on. In a world that is undoubtedly getting smaller, how big is your bottom line? Are you just tracking profits, or are you tracking your impact as a global citizen in this new purpose-driven economy? Thanks so much for hanging out with me today, and keep learning.